Today I've got huge stories for you, starting with the 9950 X3D getting spotted. AMD's RX 9070 XT is a beast, the 5070 and 5070 Ti leak, and the RTX 5090 is one monster of a GPU. But before I get to that, I'm going to be at CES this upcoming January, and I'll be sitting down with AMD to ask them some questions, which I'll be getting ideas from you. So if you aren't already subscribed, make sure to do that and follow me on X so you can stay up to date on everything coming out there. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, we pretty much knew it was coming, but now it's here. A leaker recently shared this CPU Z, and for starters, you can see this is Granite Ridge, which means we are talking Ryzen 9000 CPUs. It also comes with 16 cores and 32 threads, but of course, none of that means it's an X3D chip. That proof is right here with the fact that it comes with a whopping 148 megabytes of L3 cache. Now, it is an engineering sample, but of course, given we're so close to launch, I highly doubt anything would change. Either way, as you can see, this also proves that we are talking X3D 3D cache on only one chiplet, because the 96 megabyte chiplet is that one that comes with the 3D cache, while the other one just comes with the standard 32 megabytes. Not only that, but when it comes to clocks, you can see we're looking at 56.5, so this would likely be 5.65 gigahertz, which is of course very close to the 5.7 gigahertz of the 9950X CPU, so we are talking likely very close, if not identical, when it comes to core clocks. Then we're looking at the exact same TDP of 170 watts. Basically, this is pretty much exactly what we expected out of this CPU. Not much of a surprise. It would have been interesting to see potentially both chiplets come with a 3D cache, but of course, like AMD has mentioned before, you really don't get too much out of that. With that said, given the core clocks, I highly doubt that we'll be seeing much of a difference, if at all, versus the regular 9950X, which, just like the 9800X3D, that would of course mean that this is great for everything, not just gaming, but also one of the best, if not the best, when we're talking AMD chips for professional workloads. And next up for today, we just found out that AMD's RX 9070 XT GPU was a thing. AMD's obviously taking cues from Nvidia on the naming, but with the fact that the highest end GPU appeared to be the 9070 XT, I have to admit that I was a little worried. I mean, we knew AMD wasn't planning to go all out this generation, but with last gen, most of AMD's GPUs were essentially one SKU behind Nvidia. For example, the 7800 XT was closer to the 4070, the 7700 XT was closer to the 4060 Ti, etc. So a 9070 really didn't sound all that impressive. Luckily, it's now looking a lot better than we originally thought. As you can see right down here, this story originally comes from this leaker, who is a chip hell leaker who's definitely gotten tons of stuff right in the past. Regardless, as you can see, it says the reference version of the 9070 XT will have a total board power of around 260 watts, while the custom models could get as high as 330 watts. Not only that, but the leaker also claims, and this is the really big one, yes, we're talking the 9070 XT, so you might think that we're looking at the 4060 or potentially the 5060 in terms of performance, but I'm thinking one of the reasons they're changing the naming scheme is because they're actually trying to get close to Nvidia's naming scheme as well, not just being similar name-wise, but also in terms of performance. Because as you can see right here, the new GPU apparently comes in at a whopping 2.8 gigahertz, with a boost clock ranging from 3.0 to 3.1 gigahertz. Not only that, but with the TDP of 260 watts, that would put it between the RTX 5070 and 5070 Ti, but then in terms of performance, according to this, the RX 9070 XT's performance is within 5% of the RTX 4080. So we're talking, rather than say 7700 XT's performance or even 7800 XT's performance, this is much closer to the 7900 XT or 7900 XTX. And you can actually see this with what they claim is the core count of 4,096. You can actually see that that's quite a bit more than even the 7800 XT's 3,840 cores. Basically, while this clearly still won't be beating, say, an RTX 5090 or anything like that, it is looking quite a bit better than what I would have thought with an AMD card for their 70 series. And while talking 70 series GPUs, Resident Leaker Copi7 Kimmy just gave us a great Merry Christmas by revealing the specs of both the RTX 5070 Ti as well as regular 5070. And starting things off, as you can see right here, the 5070 Ti comes with 8,960 CUDA cores, a 256-bit bus with, yes, GDDR7, and we're talking 16 gigabytes of memory, which actually is, of course, an improvement, but I'll get to that in just a second. Not only that, but it comes with a 300 watt TDP. Moving on to the regular 5070, this one comes with just 6,144 CUDA cores, a 192-bit bus, once again, 12 gigabytes of GDDR7 memory, and a TDP of 250 watts. And really quickly, I like this right here where it compares it to the current gen cards. And first up with the 5070 Ti, you can see that it actually gets a very nice boost in core count of 16.7%. Okay, I say very nice, but that's still really not that great for a brand new generation of cards. But then when we move from the 5070 to 4070, we're talking just 4%. Luckily, the 5070 Ti does get more memory, though of course it's the same amount as the 5070 Ti Super. Then when it comes to the clocks for the memory, it goes up 33%, which makes for a total bandwidth of an additional 77%. But then moving on to the 5070, and that one of course did not get any kind of boost in memory capacity, but it did get a slight boost in memory clocks, making for a total of 33.3% more bandwidth. Unfortunately, for the RTX 5070, the good news ends there because it gets an additional power draw of 50 watts, which is 25% more versus the 4070. Then the 5070 Ti gets a more respectable addition of 15 watts or 5% more power draw than the 4070 Ti. Of course, neither of those are really all that great, and especially the 5070, just like last gen, it feels like the lower the GPU SKU gets, the lower jump it gets over the previous generation, which really does suck. I mean, eventually the next generation, the 6000 series, if this keeps up, may even get a regression when you get down to the 60 series card. I mean, obviously that shouldn't happen, but really, I mean, 4% more cores, that's basically nothing. Luckily, the 5090 is significantly better as it's one monster of a GPU, and today we finally get a chance to see this bad boy in all its glory. As you can see right here, we first have some images of the actual just PCB design. This doesn't have the actual GPU on board. You can also see this doesn't have any of the memory out here, but we then later got what is claimed to be a quality sample of the GPU. Now, it does look a little odd given the white text and everything, but as they state right here, this is very similar to a couple RTX 4090 qualification samples. So while you may want to take this with a bit of grain of salt, it definitely looks like the real deal. Either way, you can see that it is one serious beast of a GPU. I mean, it's huge. And in fact, if we go back to not too long ago, there were some rumors that this bad boy would be a whopping 744 millimeters squared. And that is the biggest it's ever been since the RTX 2080 Ti, which was right at 754 millimeters squared. So yes, this is set to be a beast, especially because the transistor size has obviously gotten significantly smaller than when the 2080 Ti was out. So while that does it for today, are you pumped for Nvidia's RTX 5090, or are you more excited for AMD's 9070 XT? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And as always, have a great day.